Hi everybody, Sophia here from Highland Birth and Beyond, and today we are joined by Lucy, who is a first-time mum. Her little boy is now 4 months old, and I have persuaded Lucy to come and just give us a little bit of an insight into her experience of breastfeeding, and then I'm going to see if she's got any special advice for first-time mums up her sleeve. Hi Lucy, how are you getting on?
Hi, yeah, good, thank you.
So we've both relocated. We've just done a fab interview a few moments ago all about Lucy's birth experience and her home birth. So I'll also pop a link to that down below so that you can watch that if you're interested. So Lucy, first of all, tell us a little bit about the breastfeeding. So you've had this lovely home birth. Everything's very chilled out, very relaxed.
Yeah.
What happened next when it came to the feeding stage?
I think that's where the anxiety came in, actually, because I felt quite relaxed in birth for the most part. And then we were suddenly there with our baby, and he just seemed so little. And so we went to bed with him, and we were at home, and I'd really felt like I wanted him to kind of try and give him the opportunity to do the birth crawl, so to naturally find the breast if he could, and so we tried that for about an hour, and he was just not latching on right. I can't 100% remember, but I feel like when he latched on it was painful, and it was just a big disappointment because I just felt really sad that it hadn't worked and in the way that I wanted it to. And I also felt a little bit rushed. So even though I was at home and we just had a home birth, the midwives were absolutely lovely. I felt guilty. I felt like, oh, they're tired. It's 11 at night. They'll probably want to go home.
They'd only been with you for a few hours.
I know. And because
yours sometimes are there overnight, and yours were literally in and out in a few hours.
Exactly. And I think this is, in hindsight, what I would try and advise people to not be trying to take on the feelings of other people when you've just given birth, because
always
and I'm that type of person. I kind of worry about what other people feel, and I think so I was feeling quite pressured to breastfeed, but I also didn't really want him to be weighed or measured or anything before we'd had a successful breastfeed, but they needed to do that in order for him to get an NHS number. So that meant that after about an hour I just sort of thought, okay, well, let's weigh him. I think that was the first time George held him, and we weighed him and it was fine, and I just had no interest in how much he weighed or anything like that. I just wanted to get breastfeeding started. And my friend Flo was there, and she's a midwife. She was one of our birth partners, and she knows quite a lot about breastfeeding. She's had 2 children, and that's her expertise. So she was giving us some help rather than the midwives giving us help. And I think quite quickly we all realised that he just couldn't open his mouth wide enough. It was just really painful. And Flo, it was so nice because Flo was like, look, if you're in hospital, they would be getting really worked up and anxious now, but just don't worry about it. Just have some sleep and try again try again later, kind of thing. And of course I was worrying about it because that was kind of my dream thing, was for him to breastfeed straight away. And I can't remember whether I expressed any colostrum then to give him, but I can't remember. But what I started to do was express colostrum, because what it kind of transpired that he Flo was like, I think he's probably got a tongue tie. And so anyway, it was too painful to feed him from the breast. So I just started expressing colostrum into little syringes and getting these tiny minuscule amounts and giving them to him. And I think I just felt very guilty that I couldn't give him milk from the breast. And I think it was useful to have quite a lot of reassurance from Flo that, it's okay, just keep trying and keep pumping. And I eventually started using a breast pump after the first couple of days, just to keep your supply up. And then that was when George and I just started trying to think about trying to get a referral to have his tongue tie assessed, which was, again, so helpful to have someone there right at the beginning to say, this is what I think it is, and you're not doing anything wrong, it's not your fault, I was trying my best, because it's difficult getting the right position and attachment as it is.
Especially when you've just given birth.
Yeah.
You've got, it's kind of a little inconvenient. It has to happen in that order, isn't it?
It is. It felt really unfair because, well, it felt I felt annoyed actually, because I thought I've done all this to try and not take any pain relief because I heard that can impact breastfeeding, and I've got an issue breastfeeding, and with having avoided any pain relief in birth. So I was pissed off, at the time about that. I was like, well, I could have had an epidural, or, and of course, whatever. I'm very lucky that I didn't as well. But yeah, it's funny. I have this lovely birth story, and then the breastfeeding thing just felt really difficult and full of guilt and full of anxiety right from the start. And I just, even though I'd thought quite a lot about breastfeeding and read quite a lot about breastfeeding, I just didn't actually feel prepared for how hard it is. Especially with a tongue tie, when there's an anatomical reason that you can't latch on properly. Yeah.
So when did that start to shift?
Well, we had his tongue tie assessed at 5 days because George, my partner, kind of rung around all the hospitals in the area and got an appointment at Leeds because Calderdale weren't doing it quickly. So he was like, right, well, we'll try and go to Leeds. And Leeds would really kindly had a cancellation and let us go to them. Good. So he had the procedure on day 5, and Leeds said, yeah, it's a really tight tongue tie, and yeah, have the procedure. So that helped a bit, and that meant that actually I started to be able to feed him from the breast then. But it was still sore, still painful. And then I started getting mastitis. So I had, I can't quite remember when that was. I think it was in week 2. I woke up in the middle of the night, freezing, like shivering and feeling like I had the flu. And it's COVID time. So it was scary. It was like, oh, I've got a temperature. Oh, I've seen all these people in this time. So we had a COVID test, and then I realised that actually I just had a blockage in my breast, and I thought, well, it's mastitis then. And I rang the doctor and got antibiotics for that. And then, but just kind of realised that sort of meant that his position and attachment wasn't still correct, because I had sore nipples and I had recurring mastitis a few times, which is painful. And the worst thing is feeling like I had the flu. So trying to get up and feed him in the middle of the night when I feel like I've got the flu and all I want to do is lie down and sleep.
And it's hurting. It's not much incentive to, apart from obviously the fact you love your baby and want to make sure he has what he needs. There's not much of an incentive. I feel rubbish and my nipples hurt and I'm going to get up and try and do something that's going to hurt again.
And it's like they'll sometimes describe it like a woodpecker trying to attach to your breast when it's sore and painful. Yeah. And anyway, I think the thing that I am pleased we've done is try and find as much support as possible. So we got support from a lactational consultant, and because of COVID, like the resources aren't as there's lots of helpful people out there and I've had lots of helpful people from the NHS and other ways along the way, but we ended up asking for some private support as well. Hello. Hi.
He's heard Mum speaking again.
He's back. Hello, are you hungry?
You're
hungry?
Back. Hello. We're talking about you.
We got some support from him.
Yeah. There we go.
Hello. Yeah, that's a nice hipper.
Hello.
Yeah, and it was good. We got some support from a lactation consultant, which was just very helpful on positioning and attachment, but just empowering, and sort of someone who is just going to tell you you're doing a really good job and what you need to hear, and that was really lovely. So that's really helped us. And he's 4 months now, and I haven't had mastitis for a couple of months, and every time I feel a blockage I kind of know what to do. So I feel a bit more I just feel a bit more empowered, and Corum's put on loads of weight and he's fine. And I think it's just that thing of I felt a lot of guilt, but I know he's okay, and like I've tried to, you know, do what's best for both of us, and thankfully it's just got easier and easier. But he did actually end up having a tongue tie procedure another time, which is something I wasn't aware of, that sometimes they don't quite cut enough to begin with. So I'd just say to anyone, if they do have a tongue tie and you're still having problems, get it checked again.
Yeah, absolutely. So important. Yeah. It's the things that you don't know to ask or to double check. You know, as you said there, you might assume if you've had it done once, then that's taken care of. One of the other first-time mums I was speaking to a couple of weeks ago, she mentioned that when she was in hospital, breastfeeding was established really quite quickly for her, and she was really comfortable with how it was. But she only really had one position that she knew to use. And she said if she had one piece of advice for anybody else who was looking to breastfeed, it was, if you're in a birth setting environment where you've got the opportunity to speak to midwives or to other breastfeeding mums, is ask everyone what their favourite breastfeeding position is, so that you've got a whole range of them, because she just assumed, well, this one works, that's the one that she's going to work with. So if you had any advice for mums who are breastfeeding or looking to breastfeed, what would you say?
I'd say don't be afraid to ask for support, and kind of stick your neck out, and don't just put up with it if it's painful. Because if it's painful, you need, there's something that might be able to be done to make it more comfortable, and you shouldn't have to live with doing something really painful 8 times a day. Even though, instinct kicks in and you just do whatever you can. But yeah, I think exactly. And I think, finding out about different positions, and finding out as much as you can without being overwhelmed by pressure and information, and know that you're doing as much as you can. And it's hard. It's bloody hard. It can be hard. I don't think it is hard for everyone, but it can be.
And on days where it's not hard, how does it feel?
Yeah, it feels lovely. I think just recognizing now that I can have a conversation with you and feed him and not worry too much about him. It used to be that I wouldn't be able to do anything while I was feeding him, because I would have to concentrate so hard to make sure he wasn't going to slip and it wouldn't get sore again. So just the fact that I can do multitask now, and get support, like it's the same as doing a hypnobirthing course. It's like, after, if you're struggling post birth with anything, if you can, try and get support, whether that's through the NHS or through however, even kind of Instagram pages and stuff like that, can just have you can find the golden nugget of advice that you needed.
I think it's one of those really interesting things. When I used to be teaching, when we were able to be face to face, and we'd have lots of first time mums in the room, and people would be breastfeeding and some people would be bottle feeding, and everybody's got their own kind of internal dialogue that's going on. There's somebody who's really comfortable breastfeeding and just automatically baby in, breast out, baby fed. Somebody else who might want to leave the room because they're bottle feeding and they feel embarrassed, or they feel ashamed for some reason, even though nobody else in the room is judging them for it. Somebody else who might still be really quite self-conscious and they kind of want to go away and have the privacy, and somebody else who's got a smaller chest and they're thinking it feels almost kind of pointless to be doing this. They're embarrassed to do it in public for different reasons. There's so much chat really going on, isn't there?
I think so, and I think that kind of taps into this thing about it's really easy to feel like you're going to cause offence as a mum. There's kind of this sense of like, you don't want to be that smug one who had an amazing birth and wants to talk about it. So I end up sort of saying, sometimes focusing on the funny or issues that came up during birth, rather than saying how great it was, because people sort of don't believe you as well. And then also with breastfeeding, I don't want to be that person who's, well, I'm going to breastfeed and I'm never going to give them formula, and I don't want to be, because basically I think we're living in a culture that doesn't do a very good job of supporting women at all, and particularly after birth, and there's a lot of criticism and judgment and blame and shame, and it's not helpful. So I guess it's just a complicated, it seems like quite a complicated thing. And in some ways I've found it easier to talk today about having trouble breastfeeding than I have to talk about having a great birth, because it's sort of more socially acceptable to talk about the bad stuff. Yeah.
It's that way that we automatically connect over the negative and how miserable it is outside, and we've got a flat tire and it's too many weeks till payday and I'm just busy all the time. And and those other ones who are like, I've got loads of money in the bank, I'm off on holiday again, picking up my new car. I was like, I don't want to hear about that. They're just bragging. But actually there's a really important part to that, and it's one that we chatted about in between there, which is that when people have positive birth experiences, or when breastfeeding is just a breeze, or the baby sleeps all through the night, often those voices are the voices that are quieter, because people don't want to be the smug mum. People don't want people to think that what they're saying is not true, or to question it or to disbelieve it, and nor do they want to cause upset or offense to the people who have had a really tricky time or a difficult time. But the more that we keep the positive stories hush hush and quiet, the more that the difficult stories continue to get circulated, and then we continue to recreate that belief that birth has to be excruciating, it's going to be really difficult, there's always going to be a curveball. So actually it's really good to be able to say, I'm not the smug mum, but I am the mum who had a great birth, and I did have a tricky time breastfeeding, but now most of the time it's okay. Really
exactly.
That permission back again,
there's a bit of balance, isn't there, with that? There's a little bit of balance, and I think I really valued, before giving birth, knowing that I had a couple of friends who'd had really positive births, and just knowing that helped me to know that I could. And that was really good. And I think with breastfeeding it's been slightly different, because I think I just think the infrastructure doesn't seem to be there at the moment with COVID to really support people to have a particularly easy time, unless they just naturally do. So that's been slightly different. But I just wish people could feel like they could just be a bit more open. I think that's one of the benefits of social media. For the flaws of social media, I think it's nice to just know that you can see other mums struggling and having a good time on there.
Gives you a better balance. I almost think it's gone the other way now, whereas people used to only portray the positive all the time. I think there is a lot of, this is so difficult. There was definitely times where I was seeing mums on social media crying every day, and everyone was connecting with them. So it almost felt as unreal as when you see somebody who's euphoric and happy all the time. It's like, really? They're crying every day, and they're on social media crying every day? Because when I don't know about anybody else, when I feel like crying, I don't feel like sticking a camera in front of my face and going, I'm crying. That isn't my way of self-care.
I guess there might be an element of this kind of black and white kind of stuff, that it has to be really, really good or really, really bad. And I guess that's what I'd say about parenting, is it's not, it's birth. It's birth, and it's also in between, and sometimes it's boring, and sometimes it's the most joyous thing in the world, and sometimes it's funny, but it's not, like, it's kind of not what I expected. I think I expected it to be hard, and to be exhausted, and to be quite extreme, but actually it's kind of just a continuation of normal life, with the sort of ups and downs and middles, and he's just part of our life now, so I think maybe if I wanted some advice about being a new parent, it would be, don't expect it to be it is a huge change in lots of ways, but don't expect it to kind of transform your life into something completely different, you know, or don't expect it to really improve your life, or, you know, because it's just a new sort of part of life, I guess.
It's just slotted straight into the family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So if you had any advice for a first-time mum about anything to do with being a first-time mum, what would you say?
I'd say trust your instincts. Definitely. I think the amount of time I spent when I just had him, thinking, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong, or I'm doing something dangerous, or I'm doing something, I'm not, you know, doubting myself, was a waste of time, because my instincts are what's best for him, you know, and because we're so in tune with each other. And so I'd just say that, you know, and I think there's so much like out there, information out there about parenting, and, you know, especially all that kind of like, but the books that tell you exactly what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and what makes you a terrible parent and what makes you a great parent. I just think it's rubbish. I think you can trust yourself, because this is what we're designed to do, you know, as human beings.
It's also the reality check, isn't it? That expecting there to be like a absolute rule book or a guidebook for what to do with a baby, all babies need to be treated like this. It's like saying this is what you must do to make Lucy happy and this is what you must do to make Sophia happy. Like, we're two completely different people. And so babies are different people. Yes, they have physical needs and physical demands, but they're also they're different. There are individuals, they are unique. So it's, so you say, it's that dynamic that you have with Coram, and how to put that together to make sure that he's getting what he needs, and you're well too.
Exactly.
He's certainly happy now.
Yeah, he's doing well. And I think that's the thing. I think there's a lot of, again, I think this comes into the way society is structured. I think women are kind of told to be, you know, kind of blamed and shamed, and sort of there's a lot of fear instilled in new mums. And I think that's the other thing, because we've been bed sharing with Coram since he was born.
Nice.
And which is so helpful for sleep and him. But I know that lots of people are really scared to do that, because I think there's a lot of advice out there and a lot of kind of skewed data out there about it. So I guess I would say, do what you feel is right. Don't bed share if you don't want to, but if you want to and your instinct's telling you this is right, there's a safe way to do it, and it's bloody great. So yeah.
I think that's a really interesting point. In fact, two other people that I've spoken to, two other new mums that I've spoken to in the last few months, have said exactly the same thing. You know, one who's co-sleeping with her baby, and she started to talk about it, and then she's like, oh, I don't know if I want to talk about this. I'm going to get named or shamed or blamed and everything else. And then the other mum who's like, you know, actually, I want to co-sleep with my daughter. And when she started to look more and more at the research, what they were finding, and anyone who is interested in co-sleeping, do go and do all of your own research so that you make a decision based on your own findings and whether or not it's right for you and your family. But certainly what this lady found was that when she started to look more and more at the research, it was really quite clear that the situations where something had happened to the baby, that there wasn't safe practice being followed in the first place. So it wasn't that it was because of the co-sleeping, it was because of the malpractice of the co-sleeping, if you like. So it's really difficult to weigh up. But as you say, and as both of the other mums both said to me, it was an amazing experience for them. They absolutely loved it, and they never wished for a minute they'd done anything other than that. So, and I've also heard plenty of mums when their children are much older, and none of them have a 15-year-old trying to get into bed with them. So not to worry about that whole rod for your own back scenario.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing that Instagram has been quite helpful for. There's a few accounts that are all about kind of gentle sleep, you know, and then yeah, it's just nice to be validated, and find the things that help you, and don't find the things that make you feel shit and guilty and all of that.
Unfollow those.
Exactly.
It's one of the best things about social media. Just unfollow, unlike, off we go. As if
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Anything else you'd like to add or share today, Lucy?
No, I think that's it. Yeah. Got a
Oh,
calm baby now, so that's good.
indeed. Indeed, he's just proving that breastfeeding can be just blissful.
Exactly. Definitely is for him. Yeah.
Proof in between. Oh, well, thank you so much. Have a
Yeah.
gorgeous day, whatever you get up to, and take care. Lots
Yeah,
of love.
thank you. Take care.
Bye bye for now.
Bye.